Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to sit in on this session. I don't know about where you're at, but the weather's a little different here. So what we're going to go through today is last week, or the last session for OneNote, we went through some basics. We'll do a little review of that, but today's session is going to be OneNote for Business. I'm going to show various things, how you can use OneNote in various business situations. So a couple house cleaning things. First of all, I have all of the phones and the microphones muted so that we don't get background noise. I will, throughout the session here and there, unmute the phone, so if there's questions, you can ask them. And also, if you have any type of questions as we go along, you can type them in the chat area in the GoToMeeting tab, and I'll try to answer the questions as I go along. So today's agenda is we'll take a step back to our last session, and we'll just review some of the basics. I think most of you that are in this session, or quite a few of you, were in the last session, but there's some that weren't. If you missed the first session, I don't think you'll be behind at all. I'll go through a quick review of just how to get around within OneNote. And then we'll go ahead with the session. But I don't. If you didn't attend the first one, I don't think you have any problems. Then we'll talk about using OneNote in business, and then we'll talk about the other more sessions for the OneNote webinar series, and then some other webinars that we're going to be doing over the next month or two. So with that, I thought the first thing I would do is kind of give you a view outside of my window at the moment. Oh, wait a minute. That's not the right view. That's the right view. I would rather it be the first one. So as I do look out the window, actually, it's a little different than the picture that's here, because I took that a little while ago, and it's actually snowing at the moment. So I guess that's nothing new around here. So as far as OneNote goes, OneNote is, as I said during this first session, is one of the applications that Microsoft has created that, for me, I've probably been using it. Well, I've been using it since it first came out, and which is several years back now. I think it's at least 8 years ago that they created the first version of it. And right from the beginning, when I started looking at it, I felt that it was probably the coolest application that Microsoft has ever created. And the issue, and the funny thing is that most people don't even know what it is. So it's interesting, to say the least. But what it is an application that allows you to create or take notes and gather information, and it uses the syntax or the view of a regular notebook. So in notebooks, you have the notebook itself. You have sections or tabs. You remember when we were in school, you'd get a bound notebook and it would have tabs in it, or you'd buy a binder and put tabs in it yourself. And the tabs would be for various things, either by subject or by class or whatever you decided to do. And then within those sections, there were pages, and then within the pages, at least in the OneNote context, you can have sub-pages. So you can have a page regarding some particular subject, and then you can have sub-pages that refer to the same page. And I'll show you that quickly in a couple of minutes here. And then the other thing that OneNote does is, for those pages, you can we can use existing templates or create our own templates. So, for instance, again, back in the days of the notebooks that we were using, if you created a page for, let's say, a subject or something, and you had a subject at the top and maybe date and time of the class or whatever, you could take that page and make copies of it and put it in the other tabs so that you didn't have to redo all of the work again in each one of them, at least for the template itself. It's the same idea here. So we're going to actually be using all of these things today when we look at the business applications of OneNote. But to start with, we'll talk a little bit about the business uses. It's almost, I keep finding more and more uses for it, and realistically, it's pretty much unlimited. Once you get an idea of how the software works, you'll find yourself finding all kinds of uses that you can take advantage of the capabilities of the program. Today we're going to concentrate mostly on business uses. In the next session we're going to talk about personal uses. But in both cases, a lot of the things are really the same between business and personal. What I'm doing as I go through this is each usage that I'm going to show you will highlight some component of, or one or more components of OneNote, so you get a feel for not only the usage but also some real life applications of some of the functions within OneNote. So some of the things that I've used it for are, for general research. It has great capabilities for that. In fact, a lot of people, that's all they do use it for. Meeting notes, meeting agendas and notes and things. I use this all the time. For those of you that I do the quarterly business meetings with, or quarterly business reviews, usually I have my iPad or one of my devices with me, and it's always open to OneNote. Before the meeting, I set up the agenda and put notes in it, and then during the meeting, I use it to drive the meeting, but I also use it to write down tasks or notes that are coming out of the meeting. There's various ways you can do task lists, and we'll see several of those this morning. You can do, wherever you need to do documentation, you can use OneNote. We use, as I said, I have several notebooks. I actually have a notebook for disaster planning, and there's a lot of documentation, not disaster planning, but an actual disaster recovery routine. And there's lots of notes, there's lots of links in there, things like that. We also are setting up employee manual using OneNote. So as we go through this morning, you'll see some of the reasons why OneNote is a good idea for doing some of those types of things. CRM, or customer relationship management, there's all kinds of uses for that. Again, I have a notebook for clients, and in that notebook I have sections for each, I have sections for the groups of clients, so healthcare, distribution, whatever it might be. And then within each of those sections I have at least one page, and more than likely multiple pages for each of our clients. And it's used to keep notes for either projects or different things that for relative to the client. You can use it for travel. I'm going to demo the travel stuff a little bit more during the personal section, because it seems to just relate a little bit better there. But actually, the same functions work with business as in travel. So again, I have a notebook, a personal notebook, and I have a tab for instance, for vacations. And when we decide we're going to take a vacation, or we're thinking about taking a vacation, I start gathering information, and that information goes into, I create a page for, let's say it's a certain time, a vacation for July, the first week of July, or maybe it's a cruise that we're looking at doing or something like that. I'll start a page for it, and then as I'm gathering information, I put all the information in there, and then as we're making our decision, we'll use that to make the decision. And then once we decided where we're going, I may do research on the area so I can find restaurants or things to do, and again, I just put all of that in the notebooks. I have it all there. We could use it for all types of planning. I have a notebook for management of system support group, And in there I have tabs for marketing, for sales, for staff, various things related to planning for the company. And then, general brainstorming. You can use it during meetings to brainstorm. And it does have functions to be able to collaborate. We're going to get into collaboration and things later on down the road in one of the webinars where you can actually have multiple people putting things in the notebook at the same time. And then there's just all kinds, as I said earlier, the potential is pretty much unlimited on what you can do with it. It's really a matter of your imagination once you get an idea of how the tool works. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open up OneNote. For those of you that were not there at the last session, I'll go through just a 2-minute little demonstration here of the components of OneNote. So as I said, it's a notebook context. So we have over on the left here, if I click, this is the name of the notebook that we have open right now, up in the left-hand corner of the screen. And if I click on that, this gives me a list of all the notebooks that I have opened on this particular machine. So it just remembers all of them. Now this may not be all of my notebooks because maybe some of the personal ones I don't open on this particular computer, but these are all the ones I generally work with. And right now we're in this OneNote webinar notebook. And if you wanted to open one that you had on that's not open on this one, you can click Open Other Notebooks, and it would give you, it'd ask you where, and you can either search on a local machine. Notebooks can be stored on a local computer. They can be stored on a file server, like in the office. They can also be stored in the cloud. For the most part, I would say 95% of my notebooks are all in the cloud now. And the reason is, if they're in the cloud, I can access them through anywhere, and we'll talk about that also in another future webinar about how you can access these through different devices as well as different computers, even if it doesn't have OneNote on the computer. So once you've selected your notebook, you have, this is what I was talking about regarding sections, this area right here. Or tabs. You can think of them as either sections or tabs. And so these are the ones we're working on. We're going to work mostly in this tab today for business. And then when we do the next webinar, it'll be in personal. And then I have extra tabs I'm going to use some demonstration for some demonstration purposes during this session today. And if we wanted to create a new tab, we can just click the plus here. It'll create a new tab. We can rearrange the tabs. So if I want this one to be over here, I can just drag and drop. As you can see, the tabs are colored. You can change the color of the tabs. One thing I didn't talk about, I don't think the last time, was that we can do tab groups. So what I called sample pages here, that's a tab group. The reason why you would use tab groups is once you get going with this, you'll find you're going to start creating, in the case of a notebook like this one here, you're going to create other tabs, and eventually you're going to have so many tabs up here, you can keep adding them. I don't think there's actually a limit. But what will happen is, as it fills the width of the page, you'll have to slide back and forth to get back and forth to the various sections or tabs. What you can do is you can group the tabs. So what would happen is you would create a tab group, and then you can drag and drop tabs or sections into that group, and it will just shrink it up. So if the tabs were all related to a particular subject or something, you could put them all in one tab and one tab group. And when you click that, it will open up the tabs that are in that tab group. So it's just a way of organizing them. To make it easier if you have, either a lot of tabs, or if it just makes sense to put tabs in a group. So those are the tabs in the sections, or tabs or sections. On the right-hand side are all of the individual pages. So as I said, right now we're in the business tab, and you can tell first of all, it's kind of highlighted, but also the outline of everything here is the same color as the tab. So you see all the green outline. If I move over to the personal tab, you'll see everything turns to the color of the personal tab. So on the right-hand side, there is actually, this is a list of the pages within that tab. So there's a page for agenda, there's a page for meetings in this particular one. And then these pages that are indented here, those are sub-pages. So we have a page called meetings, and then underneath there we have pages that relate to meetings. And you can do up to 2 sub-levels. So this formal meeting page, if I wanted to make that a sub-page of the simple one, I just drag and drop it or just drag it over a little bit. Now I have 3 levels of pages, and you can move them back and forth as you need to. Okay. Right now, you're also seeing on the screen that I have the templates tab or the templates section open. We're going to use the templates a little bit today, but you can turn that off, and the screen would just get a little bit bigger. One other thing about this is that you're looking at the way I have my OneNote set up. OneNote can be tailored to how you want to work. So where I have the pages on the right-hand side, you may want them on the left-hand side, and you can do all of that. So you can kind of customize how it works relative to how you like to work. I've been using it this way since day one, so it works for me. But if you're just starting, you may find you want the pages on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side. You can also do things with moving tabs around also as far as left or right side. So there's some customization that you can do. In all cases, there's various pull downs, just like in any other Microsoft product. So we're in the home pull down now. We can do the insert, draw, and history. We'll go through a bunch of those things today, and some of them we won't do today. I will add them, or they've been added to the personal section, just because there'd be too much here to try to do in one session. So that's kind of a general view of overview of what OneNote is and how it works. The really cool things about OneNote is that it's free-form text. So you might look at this and say, well, it's kind of the same as using Word. You can, Word, you can make lists and you can do all kinds of things like that, which you can. But you'll see as we go throughout the session here, there's a bunch of things in here that you can't really do with Word. But one of the big things that people like is it's free-form text, and the text is put into containers. So you see this, where I have this checklist of items here, it's in a container, and I can move the container around on the page. Okay. I can also create another container over here and just type. So maybe I have a picture of something over here, or maybe I have my meeting notes or agenda or something on the left, and I want to put some things in as we're going through the meeting, and I want to have them right aligned, with the actual agenda. You can accomplish that by doing this. You can take containers and delete the whole container. You can, as you see, the pop-up that shows up when I highlight the text, I can change the font type, the sizes. I can do boldface and all those things, just like you could do in Word. But I'm going to go ahead and delete this container just so we don't have it messing up my nice clean page. So you'll see as we go along, there's a bunch of things you can do in here that it is similar to word processing, or it is really a word processor, but it has a lot more capabilities than something like Word or Google Docs would have. So one of the uses, as I said, and probably one of the bigger things that I use OneNote for is for meetings. I use this for client meetings, for our team meetings here. I just almost all the time I use this to do my meeting notes or my meeting agendas. Sometimes it's very basic. I might have a meeting, maybe it's going to be a conference call this afternoon or something, and I want to make sure that I don't forget something. So I'll create a meeting. I'll create a page for the meeting. like I'm going to do here. So you can call it whatever you want, obviously. And then maybe I want to, just put some notes of things that I want to do. All right, so I can make it as simple as that if I wanted, just to have a few notes, and then when I get ready to do the meeting, I just pop this up and I have the stuff there. And then during the meeting, or in this case, conference call, I can either put notes right here, or I might put it before the call. I tend to be a little do things a little bit over here, but usually lots of times before the call, I'll create these two items. I'll call it tasks. And then I usually actually do this one up here. Call it notes up here, and then tasks. And then if you want to format it to, I use these headings. And so during the actual conference call in this case, I can put notes in here of things that I want to either that we talked about, and then maybe while we're talking. We decided I need to send a so I can put my tasks in here, and if I do tasks, I can create a little to-do flag on there. And so now after the meeting, I have all this stuff here, and then if there's 4 or 5 tasks, as I do them, I click them off, or you'll see later on, we can make these tasks become Outlook tasks. So for those of you that use Outlook and you use tasks in Outlook, one of the things that OneNote can do is actually cross-reference to Outlook in several areas. We'll talk about a few of those this morning. And if it connects, if we hook the task up to Outlook, then in Outlook you'd have just like you have your tasks now, and you'd have reminders and all of those things. If you finish the task in Outlook, it'll automatically put the checkbox here. Or if you finish it here, you put the checkbox here, it'll go into Outlook and automatically complete the task. So it actually links to Outlook in that vein. So that's a couple different ways you can use it just for meetings. But one of the things I wanted to show within meetings is normally when you're setting up a meeting, you're going to create an agenda. And again, you might have a very basic agenda. You could get very detailed. You have formal meetings. So within OneNote, there are already some templates, as you can see on the right-hand side here. So if I look at business templates, you'll see there's a project overview, there's a simple meeting notes template. So these are all templates. I've actually pulled a couple of them in already. So we'll look at the simple meeting notes. So the things about templates, so this particular one is for just a simple meeting. So you want to do something quick, you don't want to get really fancy about it, but maybe you want to be a little fancier than what I did down here, where it was just very, very bland. Which normally is probably just fine. But as you can see, you can actually have a graphic background, or you can color the pages. So maybe you want to have pages that are yellow for certain things and green for other things. So you can use existing templates that are in here, and you can create your own. So if we had worked on this and we added a bunch of things and we want to make this a template, over on this templates area, down at the very bottom, it says save current page as a template. So I've done that many times where we do, as I said, we do various team meetings in here, and I've created a template with a general agenda. Some of the meetings we do weekly or whatever. So I've just created the template that I wanted, and I saved it as a template, and then for each week I can just pull that template in. So you can basically customize what you're doing and save it. So this particular simple meeting notes, it's basically made of lists. So we got an agenda list over here, and you see the container it's a separate container. Then we have attendees, a separate container, and then action items in this case as a separate container. We can move these around. We can do all of the functions that change fonts, change colors, all of that stuff. So from that simple one, we can also do. There's a template for formal meetings. So for some of you. Or for some of the meetings that we do, we want to be formal. And so there is a template for formal meetings. Again, same kind of information, but here is a list of items, a little more detailed. You can modify these, so if you don't, in your meetings, you never adjourn your meetings, you can highlight this section, get rid of it, and then save current page as a template, and now it's tailored towards you. More than likely, you might want to add some things in here and then save it as a different thing. Now, what I wanted to show on this particular one is one of the things that OneNote can do is it's interfaced to all of the Office products. So in this case, you'll see there's a little indicator of a Word document here, and that's exactly what it is. This is what I did is I just simply went to my file system, right-clicked on a file and said copy. I came in here, right-clicked and said paste, and the document is here with the title of the document. If I double-click this, it's going to it's going to give me a warning because it's a file that's not coming directly from my local machine. So the way that Word works now is, for security reasons, is it tells you, it gives you a little warning that files could be bad. So if I click OK here, it'll go ahead, it'll open up Word and drop the file with the file in it. Because I'm using multiple monitors here, I have to move things around. But there's the document that I just opened in Word. Now, one thing about that this document is in the method that I used here, this document is not attached to the original document. This is a copy of the original document. So if we open this up in here, we make changes and we save it, it's going to save to the document that's in here, not to the original source. So if you're trying to do something where you're going to work on the document, you want to have it the same in the original source, this would not be the way to do it. You wouldn't put the actual document in here. What you would do is you would put a link to the document in here. And in that case, when you opened it, it would actually open it from the file system, and then you can make your changes, and when you save it, it's going to save it in the file system. The only thing that would show up in here would be just a link to it. So you can, depending on which way you need to use it, you have both capabilities. The other thing that you can do is, I'm going to try to quickly find a file here. The other thing you can do is, right now I'm opening a file in Word. You're not seeing it. I'm going to move it over to I'm sorry, I'm opening a file in Excel. So here's a file in Excel. Once you have OneNote installed properly, you can go into whatever program it is, whether it be Word or Excel, and you can actually export the file, and you can export it into OneNote. And what will happen in that case is, instead of getting let me get this off the screen. Instead of getting a copy of the file in here, you'll actually get a printout of the file. The printout will be searchable, but it's not editable. So that's the other method that you can use to get the contents of really pretty much any Office document can go in here. If you use Visio, which is Microsoft's networking document, networking program, diagramming program, I should say. If you use that, you can actually pull a network diagram from that into OneNote also. So pretty much all of the modules. PowerPoint, you can take a whole PowerPoint presentation and feed it into OneNote, and what it will do is it'll create separate pages for each of the slides. I actually use that often. So that's some things about getting files or interfacing with Office. Now, in this example, what I'm doing here, I have actually today's, I have a meeting with Andrea here every morning. So on my schedule every morning, I have the meeting on there. This particular item right here is linked to that Outlook schedule. So if I want to open the actual Outlook schedule item, if I click here, it'll open Outlook and it'll take me in. If I want to look at the actual invitation for that meeting, if I click here, it'll open up the invitation. And as I put notes in here, it will automatically put the notes into Outlook underneath the meeting details, which is up here. So if I go into Outlook later, if I had put notes in this, I can go into Outlook and actually I can go into OneNote and put the details of the meeting, the notes from the meeting, and it links it back to the actual meeting in Outlook. So if you are a heavy Outlook meeting user, this is a way to keep your notes and your meeting schedules and things aligned. So it's actually can be very useful. All right. One of the things, as I said early on, you can use, I'm going to try to really exercise technology here. But one of the things you can do with, or one thing about OneNote is that at this point, pretty much OneNote is available on all platforms. So you could do it on your workstation, on your Windows workstations, on your Windows laptops. You can do it on Windows phones. You can run OneNote on iPads, on iPhones, on Android devices, pretty much on all of them. Now, there are some differences between them, especially the mobile devices. They can't do all of the things that the regular full app does, but they're pretty similar. So what we're going to do right now is combine. I'm going to show you a couple different things. First, what we're going to do is, if it all works, this is my iPad here, and so I'm going to open up OneNote on the iPad, and as you can see, it's OneNote. I have at the top, I have the tabs. I have at the right-hand side the pages. All right, so we're going to go into the page called Handwriting Notes. While I'm here, before I do that, I'll show you just a couple of quick things. There are some differences. It does not have all of the features of the full-blown one, but for most purposes, especially for like taking meeting notes and those types of things, it's just fine. It has all of stuff. You can change fonts, you can change colors, you can do all of those things. You can add pages, add tabs, etc. But at the very top, you have a home screen. You have an inserts tab. For various types of inserts. That is different. We're going to look at something in a couple of minutes on inserting things within the actual application that you can't do here. But we also have this Draw tab, which is also on in the regular full-blown version. And then we have a View tab, okay, for various things with View. So right now we're going to Draw tab, and we're going to go into the Handwriting Notes page. So let me move this out of the way so it doesn't get confusing here. All right, so I'm on the same page that I was on in my other on the actual desktop machine. And what I'm going to do here is, of course, I could write some notes. I'm typing on my iPad right now. But in addition to that, I can actually pick a pen. I guess we'll do blue. Okay, you can, for some people, you can draw. I'm not one of those. That's about, I actually think that looks pretty good, so that tells you something. So anyway, you can draw in here, if you have the right pens. You can change colors. You can change the type of pen you're using. Okay, you can erase. So you can do that with not only an iPad, you can do that with any touch-enabled device. So if you have a Microsoft Surface Pro Windows laptop or any other type of Windows laptop that is capable of doing touch, you can use it to create text or write in the notes. So that's what it looks like on the iPad. As if we look at here's that simple meeting notes item. Obviously, the page is not fully wide, so you have to slide back and forth because it's not the same size as my wide screen monitor here. But these are all the various pages, and I can go in and just edit them as needed. So let me jump back to regular OneNote here. Drop this one off. Give me a second, just swapping stuff around screens here. Okay. So I was typing on my iPad, and because I'm using a cloud-based system where they're both communicating with this OneNote notebook at the same time, it's automatically updated on here. And if I put some more text in here, it'll automatically update on the iPad. Now, one of the other things you can do, so as I was saying, you have a draw tab in the desktop version of OneNote. So if I click on that, one of the things I can do here is if I use this lasso tool and I highlight this text right here, I can now say ink to text, and I just looks like I just crashed Outlook. I just crashed Outlook, but it'll come back up. That's one thing about bouncing between different applications on a system. Let's see if we can do that again. Yeah, so what it did is it took now, it's a little bit high, I have to grab the section and move it here, but it converted my text, my writing to text. It's actually pretty accurate. It's not perfect. You have to be a little careful when you're typing. I'm sitting here with a bunch of stuff on my desk and headphones on and everything, so when I was writing, I couldn't take a lot of time doing it, but still it translated pretty well, even though my writing is not that great. So that's one of the things you can do. Now, one of the other things you can do here is when you're doing meetings, you can actually record audio and video during the meeting. So if this is a page, of notes that I'm taking during a meeting, if I have a device that can record audio and or record video, I have the ability to actually do those things and have the audio and video files embedded right into the page. So in this case, I'm going to do this particular first one is just audio. I don't know how good this is going to come across in the GoToMeeting, but I'm going to try to run it here and we'll see what we get. Business uses for OneNote. We can do research, we can do meeting notes, we can do tasks, and we can record audio and these things. So this is something that I recorded before. Now, a really cool thing about this, I don't know if you can hear it, but the audio is actually playing. But what I can do is these are some notes where it says task notes and brainstorming. these were notes that I took, that I wrote down while I was recording the audio. And as I hover over them, over on the left of them, you'll see a little arrow. If I click those arrows, it'll take me back to or forward to that portion of the audio where I took those notes. So if we're in the section of the meeting that was regarding the budget, and I was taking some notes about the budget, and after the meeting I'm going back through the audio, I can actually go in here and click on the section. If I put the word budget in there or whatever I put in as the marker, I can click there and it will fast forward or go backwards to that section and start playing the audio. Really cool stuff. And you can do the same thing, exactly the same thing with video. Again, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know how it's going to play. Also record video in OneNote, and the same thing will show in the video recordings. That if you take notes during the recording. So that was me making a video doing the same thing. As I was talking here, you see me looking down. I'm actually writing these notes over here. So if I highlight the text on one of these sections and click it, it takes me back to that specific spot where I took that note. So it actually aligns your notes with either the audio, if it's just an audio recording, or with the video. Again, pretty cool stuff. At least I think so. So also we have another usage is project management. So in the case of project management, there are some templates. So there's project overview template. This one's kind of well defined. A quick project to-do list, a little more formal. I mean informal. So again, when you do projects, now lots of times you might have a whole, you may not arrange things. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I'm demoing to you right now is not the way I would arrange it. So I wouldn't have a page within a section called project management or project overview. I would not have a page like that, generally speaking. I would either have a whole notebook called projects, and then each tab would be for a project, or I might have a notebook called clients, and then in that case I might have a tab called system support group, and then I might have a page called current projects, or or I might have a page for each project for them. So there's different ways you would arrange your information. You would not necessarily do it in the way that I have it here. I'm just using a particular tab and demonstrating all the various functions of that you can do with it. As I was saying, we can do things for CRM, customer relationship management. And what I wanted to show you in here, because you can do different things with this. So you can link to this is an example of a link to a section. So I created this link here, and if I click it, I believe it goes to this contacts section. So when I click this, it links and it opens up the contacts section, and now I have a couple contacts in here. All right, then let's make believe there's real stuff in there. But what you can do is, let's say I have this container, and I say, all right, I want to use that container on another page. I can right-click the container, just like in any other Office application or Windows application. Click copy, go to the second page, and click paste. And now I can, do stuff here. So that's kind of a down and dirty way of using, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call that templates, but it's a quick way to get data from one page to another. Now if I go back to, in that case, this is a link to a section. I'm going to link to a specific page. So if you remember, well, let's just click it. In this case, I click that link, and now it's taking me back into the business tab, but now specifically to the page within that section called handwriting notes, which is the one we were working on before. Okay, so just to give you an idea that you can link to, so you could create an index. That's probably a more common use for this is you might have a tab called index. Okay, we'll put that over here. I'll just, you probably wouldn't call the page the same as that, but, and then in here you can now create those links either to the tabs or to specific information within those, pages within these tabs. So you'd create like a little index here, and you would just click on it and it would take you right to those pages if it's a notebook that you hop around a lot in. So you create your own indexes using that idea. Now under the travel section, or actually I put it under the planning section. So under the planning section, you can do all kinds of planning, obviously. But lots of times, depending on what you're planning, you need to be able to maybe have a spreadsheet in here so that you can, as part of your planning, you're doing some budgeting or whatever. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. First, you can be really simplistic and just insert a table just like you would in Word. You pick some rows and columns, and now you have a table, and you can fill in information here. So but that's just and you can do calculations and that stuff, but that's just a table. But if I need to be a little fancier than that, and I really I'm an Excel person, and I want to use Excel, if I click on the Insert Pull section and click Spreadsheet, it's going to ask me, do I want to pull in an existing spreadsheet or create a new one? So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. And now I have an Excel spreadsheet here. As I plug numbers in and things and create formulas, it will obviously, populate everything. But also, if I click on it or if I double click on it to edit it, it will open up Excel. And if I make my changes in here, of course I have to put numbers in this one because it's a spreadsheet, right? If I put numbers in here, and I could either save it out to the file system. Let me just do that. It has it here. So you would use the full-blown Excel. You format everything as you want and all of that, and plug it in here. You could do graphs. If you're using Excel, this could be a graph now. So there's all kinds of things you can do with that. Again, when you're doing planning, if you're doing budgeting or any of those types of things as part of the planning, you'll have it right there. The last thing I was going to show regarding this too is that you have the ability with OneNote to have some security. It's kind of basic, but it does work. So the way that security is done in OneNote is on the tab. So if I right click on a tab, I have a bunch of options that you can choose, and you would select password protect this section, and it will ask you for a password. You put a password on it. Now what will happen is the next time you go into that section and it'll say this is protected. You click it and it'll ask for the password, and then it'll let you get in. Now a couple things about that is that you have to be careful with putting passwords on sections if you're using multiple devices like Android and Apple or your phones or whatever, because some of those platforms do not yet allow you to open password protected stuff. They will eventually. They keep adding things to the mobile stuff, but currently on some of those platforms you cannot open password protected sections. That you would see them, but you wouldn't be able to open them. The other thing about password protecting sections is don't forget the password, because if you do, you can't recover. There is no recovery. The password is embedded in the document and not recoverable. So just kind of keep that in mind. Last thing we're going to go through quickly is doing research. So research could be all of us do some type of research, whether it's researching, what Christmas gifts to buy, or whether it's researching for a business project. When you do that, you end up, most cases, we browse around on the internet and maybe write down some notes or do whatever. This is a great tool to assist with that, because what you can do is, if I'm on a web page and I want to now, keep that web page, I can, within OneNote, let me bring up a browser here quickly. All right, so within I'm in a browser and I have a window up here. I can simply cut the link to this page, or copy it, I should say, and drop it in here, which is what I did with this other one. I'll put this one right here. All right, so here's one I had done before. So if I click that link, it's going to take me out to that page. All right, so that's kind of neat, but it's not. It's for me, it's like, okay, well, so what? You can do that in a lot of stuff. But what you can do, though, is in this particular page, there was a graphic, and the title of this article was 10 Biggest Data Breaches of 2014. So I'm doing research on 2014 security breaches. I didn't say that in the beginning. But so if I click, when I cut this section out of here, it actually put a link to this section here, to the website here. So there it is. And so what I had done to do that is I just highlighted all of this. Well, I didn't highlight all of this, but a good portion of it. I did a copy, and I dropped it in the notebook. I'll just put it here. Okay, so now I have either all of the text, or in this case some graphics, maybe some charts or whatever, but it has a link to the source here at the bottom of it, which is really useful. So now if I'm going back, I have all my stuff here, and I say, oh, I want to look at that a little bit more. You click there and you're back on the page. In addition to that, when I started this page, I said I wanted to do, I just thought of something off the top of my head, 2014 security breaches. I use Google. So when I went to Google, let's see here. I put in a search, which was 2014 security breaches or whatever, and it went. And when you do a Google search, it brings up all of the sites. So what I did was I copied the actual link up the top at the top here, and I dropped of the Google search, and I dropped it into OneNote, and that's this link right in the lower left here. So if I click that now, it actually does the Google search, and here's all the articles that came up regarding 2014 security breaches. Okay, all right, let's switch back. I can find where I'm at here. All right, so that's kind of a very quick overview of some of the ways you can use OneNote for business purposes. I'm going to unmute the phones, the microphones in the phones. So if there are questions, you can fire away. If not, we'll go through and talk about a couple upcoming webinars. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute the phones right now. All right, so does anybody have any questions on any of this stuff so far?
Nope.
Sounds
nope,
quiet.
I have nothing. Yep.
You're all in awe, right?
Trying to soak it all in.
Yeah, there's a lot. Undoubtedly, there's a lot. So, OneNote is one of those things that when you first get it, you poke around with it, and there's a lot there. As I said, I've used this for 8 or more years now, and I'm still finding new stuff that I can do. They keep adding things. It's an amazing product. The capabilities of it are simply amazing. But I think what you have to do with it, because sometimes I see people start to use it, and they'll open up OneNote and they'll say, all right, what am I going to do? And they'll start creating, some fake thing. What I suggest people do is take something real, even if it's something like, your vacation plan or whatever, and just create a page. Because that way it's real stuff. You'll start, you'll say, all right, let me go out to the internet and do some research. All right, how do I get this into OneNote? How do I do these various things? And so you have something real to work with. At least that way you have something, there's some underpinning to what you're doing. If you just open up OneNote and say, okay, let me paint something here, it's just, I don't think it's that easy to do that, or it's more difficult to do it that way as opposed to having a specific thing. You might say, well, let me take some notes in meetings. Let me try this for a month, and I'll if you're using an iPad, carry it around with you and see, what do you need when you go into meetings, and then you can start asking yourself, well, how would I build this in OneNote? How would I do this? So it's one of those things that, unless you actually have real usage for it, or real scenarios, it's hard to just sit down and say, all right, let me see what I'm going to do. There's too much there. And actually, the other thing about it is you don't have to do all of these wild things. In fact, like the audio and video portion, I don't really use that a lot. I have used it. It's pretty cool, but I really don't use it a lot. It's not something, not all device. I mean, you have to be in a situation that you have a device, if you're trying to do video, to have a device that has video, those types of things. So it's, you may not use all of those things. But I do suggest people, if you have it, give it a shot and play around with it a little bit. It's a very useful tool, both business and personal wise. So some of the next OneNote webinar is going to be March 26th, and it's going to be personal applications. It'll be similar to what we're doing today, except for I'm going to highlight some more things, and they'll be more geared towards personal applications. So I'll show some stuff with travel. I have some stuff for home improvement projects, and how you might use those. I've used it personally for that, where we're going to redo our bathroom or something, and so I created a page for the project, and we went to Home Depot, and I don't know, we were looking for a toilet, and so we looked at various ones, and I was not ready to buy yet, but I took pictures of each of the toilets, and I also took pictures of the model number on the Home Depot shelf, so that when I went back, I knew exactly what ones, and I did some research on them, and then I went and bought a toilet. So I had my phone with me in Home Depot, which I have OneNote on, and I shot the pictures of the toilets and the barcodes, and it put it all in the OneNote notebook. So for home improvement projects, can be pretty useful. Purchasing a new car, you can do the same type of thing. Some other OneNote webinars that'll be after that one are the Microsoft Office integration. I showed a little bit of that today. I'm going to go through more detail. We'll spend the whole session just on the various ways that you can use that, and I'll do it in much more detail than I did today. And then we're going to do collaboration, and it's actually collaboration and using multiple devices. So in that section, we'll talk about multiple people using this, sharing the notebooks out and things like that, or you yourself using it but on multiple devices. So we'll go through both of those scenarios. And beyond the OneNote webinars, we're going to be doing, I'm getting a lot of people asking about Office 365. So early March, sometime before the middle of March, we're going to do we're going to start doing Office 365. I think it's going to end up being a short series, maybe across 2 or 3 months, because there's a lot in Office 365, and it's probably too much for one session, one hour session. So just keep your eyes open for that one. The other thing is, some of you may be aware, but Microsoft released Office for the iPad and Office for Android tablets recently. So I'm going to do it'll probably be like a 45-minute session on specifically on the iPad, using Word on the iPad, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, etc. Because very powerful stuff, but it is a little different. It is different than what you're used to on a regular machine. And then later on in the year, we're going to do Windows 10, which will be coming out towards the end of the year. We're going to do a session on Office 2016, which is the new version of Office that will be coming out toward the end of the year. And there's actually two versions of Office coming out at the end of the year, 2016 and something they're calling it right now Office Universal. But what it really is a touch-enabled version of Office. Office 2016 will be somewhat touch-enabled, but Office Universal is designed specifically for touch devices, and it will work the same across if you have a Windows Phone or a laptop or a tablet or a desktop. It'll work the same in all of those environments. So you'll see that as soon as I can have enough information that I know what's actually real. We're running Windows 10 now, but it's still in beta, so I don't want to do demos until it's actually real stuff. So or at least close to real. So those will be coming up. You just keep your eye. I'll send out invitations as they come up. So last shot for questions on either the OneNote stuff or any of the other webinars that we're going to be doing. Or if you have any ideas on webinars you'd like to see done, you can let me know that too. All right.
Good for now, Ed.
Okay. Yep. All right. So we will. I'm sorry.
I said thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know time is tight for all of us, so I appreciate you taking out some time to see the webinar. Hopefully, you got some idea of how OneNote works, and you can see that there, you can see if it has value for you, I guess. So with that, we'll call it a webinar over, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.